Leinster just put in an absolutely dominant performance up against Glasgow. And honestly, this wasn't just a semi-final. This was a statement from Leinster to say, keep your mouths quiet, everybody. We are still here. We are still in it. Do not count us out. And it's speaking to people like me who doubted them. I originally went with them. I changed my mind when I saw the teams. Was I wrong? Leinster absolutely dominated. Glasgow at no point deserved to win this game at all. They were their own worst enemies. And honestly, the commentator at one point said it feels like Leinster are playing with with a constant advantage. And honestly, it was because Glasgow just kept giving away penalties. They kept fumbling. It's like they wanted Leinster to win. It really, really is, because at no point did they truly, truly seem, outside of the last like 2-3 minutes, that they genuinely wanted anything out of the game. Leinster were dominant in the lineup. There was no point where Leinster had a lineup that they were not absolutely destructive on. Multiple tries came from it. They could have gone for points. They could have kicked for the sticks. They took the harder route. They saw where they were. They saw what they were doing. They saw that they were getting a lot from it. They would go for the corner, line out, maul, boom, try, run it out. Dan Sheehan was absolutely killing it. Jameson Gibson-Park, he was on it. He was just everywhere. The guy's vision, his just ability to play that ball, they couldn't handle him at any single point of the game. From word go to the end, he was just there. He was present, and there was nothing that Glasgow could honestly do for this game. A lot of Glasgow players, they weren't there. It's like they didn't even show up for the game. And in my opinion, this was a completely disgraceful performance by Glasgow. A lot of you guys might end up disagreeing with me, but I think the ref had a good game. Leinster had an absolutely brilliant game. Glasgow, they just felt like they just couldn't be bothered to be there. Leinster were at it at every single point in the game. The amount of possession, the amount of territory, the amount of fight that Leinster had in them, especially when it came down to the high ball. Whenever there was a high ball, we would see Lowe come in, and he just had that presence. He was making things happen, and even if they didn't win it on the initial contact, the second and third player coming in after the high ball would ultimately end up winning it. So the turnovers were just there. The breakdown. Leinster was strong. They were quick. The biggest thing that I could potentially say for Leinster is they had fire. They wanted it more than anything. And again, I think this really was to prove a point. We are here. This is who we are. And ultimately, we are going to have a new name on the Champions Cup, because with Leinster now in the finals, then later on today, we are going to have the Bulls versus the Sharks. Ultimately, there is going to be a new winner. But is it going to be from North or South? Leinster showed everybody. Leinster didn't exactly have the best game up against the Scarlets, but they proved everybody wrong. They proved me wrong. I will happily keep my mouth quiet. They put in a performance. Big performances from James Lowe. James Lowe had an absolutely spectacular game, whether it was coming in from the wing, running those inside channels, playing the ball off. I mean, there was a moment where I think it was Gibson-Park. He hit the high ball out to the wing. Immediately, James Lowe's in the air, grabs it, boom, passes it off. Is that kind of mentality to bring others into the game, to keep the ball flowing, to keep it going. And that's something that Leinster did so well. Dan Sheehan, he's a cheat code. He was such an effective runner of the ball. Everything that he did worked. He was just an annoying presence. He was powering through everybody. Glasgow could not handle him, right, at all. And then you had Ryan Baird, which was just like, he deserved man of the match. There were so many different players that could have potentially got it. Like even Jordie Barrett had a spectacular game. Andrew Porter had a brilliant game. But Ryan Baird deserved it. He was quite possibly the most ferocious guy on the pitch. He was just Ryan Baird. He just doing bad things. And this was a brilliant game to watch, because at all points, Leinster were in control. Like I say, Glasgow put out a little bit of late, late rhythm and a bit of late flair, especially with Sione Tuipulotu, which I actually feel he had the try of the game with his little solo run. But Leinster were just on point from scrums. Their scrums were so strong. Their lineouts were so dominant, and they saw where that what they were doing, and so did Glasgow. Almost all of their forwards were given 4 minutes in the beginning of the second half to say, okay, look, let's give it a try. What happened? All off. Let's bring someone else. Let's bring everyone else on. Let's try something different. That didn't work. I don't know. Leinster's kicking game were fire. It was just absolute fire. Glasgow could not handle it. Leinster put on such a pace on Glasgow. By the end, they were tired. They didn't know what they wanted to do. They looked like some of them could barely even stand up. Leinster were just ferocious. This is the Leinster of beginning of the season. This is the Leinster that we watch, that we think, yes, these are world beaters. This is the kind of performance that they can go up against international teams and come away with a win. It's performances like this that especially every Leinster fan wants to see. Now, I am, to a certain degree, unbiased. I don't support Leinster or Glasgow. I'm a big fan of the URC, and I love watching them because they got some of the biggest players in world rugby. So I want to look at it from an outside perspective. Like I say, when the teams came in, I saw the players, I saw, the previous game as well, and I thought, okay, Glasgow had everything. Tom Jordan, I was thinking Tom Jordan was going to come through with another big performance. He was quiet. He was completely isolated. George Horn was completely isolated. Horn couldn't do anything. Sione Tuipulotu, he was isolated until the back end of the game. What could be done? Glasgow tried literally everything. They literally tried everything, but they could not handle him. They just couldn't handle him. Glasgow, they couldn't beat them at the breakdown, and I really do feel Glasgow ultimately ended up giving away the game because they tried too much. They tried to defend up against that Leinster pressure, and they were making mistakes. They were fumbling. They were coming in offside. They at certain points they truly gave the game to Leinster. It's as simple as that. They gave the game to Leinster. They pretty much said, "You look, here's the ball, try." So I don't know. From Leinster's line-out dominance, Leinster's scrum dominance, Leinster's high ball dominance, they were just faster, stronger, quicker. And then you have a monster like Jameson Gibson-Park, who, if we're talking about the best nines in the world, I have him along the lines of Antoine Dupont. I really do. So Leinster coming through with a win and coming away with it. But the Bulls or the Sharks is going to be a very difficult test. So let me know what you guys think. I want to hear what your thoughts are. Please like and subscribe. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.